Well, hey, Internet. Welcome to another party, another plan, another chance for me to make millions of people on the Internet angry. Because if you're not making people angry on the Internet, you're not using the Internet correctly. Let's talk about Downton Abbey, shall we? Now, Downton Abbey, when it started way back on the first season, it was this sort of weird, semi-entertaining British period piece. It was basically just a well-disguised soap opera. And you know, the characters were good, but you couldn't really relate to them. Mary was a jerk. Edith was just sort of the worst person ever. And Sybil was sweet and adorable, but you knew that because it was a well-disguised soap opera, she was at one point inevitably going to die horribly. Maggie Smith was awesome, and, well, granted, she still kind of is. But now, here we are, 5 seasons later, and let's be very clear on one thing. Downton Abbey is still well worth watching, but nowadays it's worth watching just because it is wonderfully, hilariously terrible. Now, it's worth saying here that there will be season 5 spoilers in the video to come. So if you don't want to know about that one episode where Mary gets arrested by the Americans for being a spy, stop watching now. I'm kidding about the spy thing. Maybe. Okay, now that they're gone, let's talk about season 5. Thus far in season 5, the writers have very clearly shown that they have 100% run out of ideas. You remember last season when Mary was trying to decide who she wanted to marry between this guy and some other guy who looked and acted and was, as far as I could tell, the exact same person? And she made this decision, picking one of them, I'm still not sure which one, based on something that happened with pigs, I think. There was mud. I don't know. Anyway, she picked this one guy, and in the last episode, she spent a whole week with him in a hotel doing some very un-1920s things, and now she's changed her mind. Because let's face it, if Mary made a decision, which, let's remember, she spent the first 2.5 seasons trying to decide who she was going to marry, married somebody, and that person died within about 2 episodes. Anyway, if Mary decided who she was going to marry, we'd have to come up with something else for Mary to struggle with, and we just don't know. So we're just going to keep her in the who will marry Mary field until we come up with something else for her to do there. But at least that plot has like some bearing on the overall Downton Abbey-ness of things. Now let's talk about some of the less than interesting plot lines of this year. First off, there's the one about this girl who might be good at math, and then, in a shocking turn of events, might not be good at math. And then might be good at math if someone would teach her how to be good at math. This is how we've spent a good 30 minutes of Downton Abbey Season 5. And then, of course, there's the whole subplot on whether Lady Terrible Wife will fire her bland and uninteresting servant for doing some sort of bland and uninteresting theft thing. And that person has thus far had no effect on the overall show. And Lady Annoying Wife has thus far had no effect on the overall show. And they've spent the last 2 episodes talking about potentially, maybe one day, taking some sort of action. And let's not forget the 2 worst people in the world. Lady Edith, who we'll talk about in a minute, and this person, easily the least effective and worst teacher ever. Here's scenario 1. She gets invited to a nice dinner at the home of a wealthy British family and spends the entire time telling the wealthy British family that they should not be wealthy or British or potentially a family or alive. But just to cap that all off, the second time we see her, she's talking to a bunch of Russians recently cast out of Russia thanks to the Bolshevik Revolution. Basically, they've spent the last couple months hearing stories about thousands of their countrymen dying and close family members being hung in the streets to freeze to death. And she decides that now is the perfect time to talk to those Russian people about how she thinks the Bolshevik Revolution was a really great thing to have happened. Worst teacher ever. And then there's Lady Edith. Oh, Lady Edith, who for some reason named her daughter Marigold and gave her to a farmer. And the only reason the rest of the people at Downton Abbey haven't figured out that Marigold is very obviously Edith's daughter is because they're all idiots. Or, much like myself, they just don't care anything that happens to Lady Edith. But in her crowning moment this year, Lady Edith took a book, threw it at a fire, and somehow thought to herself that that would be a good time to take a wee nap. Because books and fires, nothing's bad ever happened there. And that's just what's happened so far in Season 5. Who knows what else will happen? Maybe Bates will go back to jail, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the writers have lost the ability to form coherent thoughts. Or maybe Professor McGonagall and the most interesting man in the world will start dating, which would actually be really awesome. They should actually do that. So there you have it, guys. Downton Abbey Season 5. And let the record show, I hope Downton Abbey just keeps right on going. I hope we get to spend years watching these characters make decisions or not make decisions or think about making decisions and then make the other decision, only to have neither decision matter because somebody dies in a car accident. Thanks for watching Thoughts You Might Have Had. Click on the button down below to subscribe to us. Click on the other buttons down below to learn more about Thoughts You Might Have Had, the blog, and other Vision Studios. I'm out. I'm in. She made that decision and then spent a hey, blooper. Ta-da. She talked to some French. They were Russian. She doesn't talk to French people. She hates them all. All right. Now, first off, just besides the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, besides that fact, let's move on. Action. And that's just what happened. That was a good start, though. I got a whole 3 words into that one. Professional.
Rolling. Action.
Did you see how I didn't go when you were on? You were trying to trap me there. You were trying to trap me into going, and I didn't. Though I spent the last 2 minutes talking about it while the cameras were open.
I just think that you're finally learning.
He was trying to trap me. I didn't. I'm smarter than the average bear.